What's good? It's me, Ben's Listing. I know it's been a while, but I'm back again to share what I've been listening to recently. One thing I just want to say before getting into the rotation is these are probably only going to be monthly from now on. I love listening to music and sharing my thoughts, but I don't want this to ever feel like something I have to do. Honestly, I haven't been keeping up with new music as of late, or new rap releases, I should say. I kind of been changing lanes, but that's a topic for another video. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into my rotation for the month of October. To start the month, here are the singles I've been listening to. The titles will also be down in the description, but I'm really not going to go over too many details of the singles. My favorites out of the bunch are probably the song by Nate Sib or the two collab tracks by Henry Mosto from Shed Theory and Olivia Gabriel. And everything I don't cover in this video will be on my daily playlist on my Apple Music. Now that the singles are out of the way, let's talk about the albums that have dropped this month. First up, Fallon and Mk.gee's recent collab mixtape, Bloody Geeker. In my opinion, most of his best work is produced by Mk.gee. This and last year's mixtape, I'm My Best Friend, are probably my favorite projects from him so far. My favorite songs were the lead single, Every Way Leads Nowhere, and track 5 titled Hate Myself. Yeat's Lifestyle is up next. I'm kind of fucking with this one, but there's a few songs I'm not really a huge fan of. It got kind of repetitive on the first listen, but I took some time with it and a few of the tracks kind of grew on me. I don't like it as much as a project like 2093, for example, which in my opinion is some of his best work, but it's still pretty good nonetheless. I'm probably still going to take some time to let this album fully settle because there's a few tracks I really want to re-listen to. My favorite tracks were You Don't Know Life, Be Quiet featuring Kodak. These two are kind of tied, but Gone for a Minute and Forever Again. One of which kind of reminded me of Wyland's Vices. Also, a lot of people were complaining about the mixing on Kodak's verse, but honestly, I didn't really see nothing wrong with it. Glaive dropped his new album, May It Never Falter. I was a little late to checking this one out, but I'm glad I did. Now, I haven't really checked out his whole discography, but I have listened to quite a bit. And so far, I'll say this is definitely my favorite album by him. It's a lot more well-rounded than a lot of his other past work, as well as this being the actual first album that he dropped since I tapped in with his music. It's pretty hard to pick a favorite, but my top 3 are I Know, Every Dog Has His Day, and I don't know how to pronounce this last one, but Freudian. Over the last few months, Glaive has easily become one of my go-to artists, even showing some of his stuff to my girl. She's not a huge fan, but she tolerates him a lot more than some of the other artists that I listen to. Now, these last 2 albums I'm going to talk about have probably held up most of my rotation over the last few weeks, and definitely are some of my most anticipated albums of the year. Check these out if you haven't heard them or if you haven't heard of the artist. This first album is self-titled by a band that goes by the name of Fish House. They're actually a band I've been following most of my life. They're from Connecticut, which is why I've known about them for so long. They're a very underrated group based out of New York, and they've been working a very long time to finally drop their debut album. Luckily, I was able to get tickets to the release show in Brooklyn last week. Some of these songs gave me actual goosebumps, and it was a memory I'll remember for the rest of my life. Seeing this perform live before ever hearing it on streaming is definitely something I hope to do with more artists going into the future. My favorite track was Nice Talk, but every song was amazing, especially the singles leading up to the album. If I could only recommend one thing on this entire list, this album would be the one. If you get a chance, go give it a listen, especially if you're into that more alternative soft rock kind of vibe. There's one more thing I want to talk about today, and that's the Help's new album, Untitled, or LL as the name is listed on streaming. These two have one of the most refreshing sounds I've heard in the last 10 years listening to music. Similar to Glaive, this is the first project they've dropped since I started listening to their music earlier this year. To hear where they were at now sonically was something I had been wondering, so to hear they were dropping a full-length album, I had no choice but to listen. Every single leading up to this album was beautiful, especially Go Somewhere. And it had a pretty crazy music video to go along with it too. The only song I didn't really enjoy as much on this album was the outro, Distribution, but even that one grew on me after a few listens. My favorites, not counting any of the singles, are tracks 10 through 13. Track 10, titled Ether, having production credits from 2 Hollis, was something I knew I wanted, but honestly I did not expect on this album. All that being said, this is a very well-rounded project and I see the vision. I definitely see them blowing up in the next few years. This whole wave they're on right now is something I see taking over the mainstream soon, especially with the introduction of someone like 2 Hollis to the rap underground. That's all I have for today. This is what I've been listening to in the month of October. Also, I know Tyler's album just dropped, but I'll probably get to that in next video, seeing as it dropped at the very end of the month. If you check any of these out, let me know your thoughts down below. Hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.